Hey guys, Mustang here bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and boy do we have a challenge run for you guys today. So I joked about this on Twitter last night, but basically if you don't follow me on Twitter already, you should, at the Mustang. But I tweeted out a couple of days ago, in fact, after having done the initial videos on him, asking you guys what team you wanted to see me showcase the Super 17 on in the GT Legendary Goku event, and a ton of people in the replies said the Android team. So I had thought about the Android category when this event first came out, because you guys know, if you've been around for a while, obviously being a fan of the Super 17 that I am, I've always been a big fan of the Android category team, and I had put some thought into whether the Android category team would even be good enough for this event, because a lot of the big powerful units on this team that work really well in modes like Super Battle Road and stuff like that are not super good for long form events. So units like the LR androids, like 14 and 15, Android 21, by the time you get up to even like the physical Super Saiyan 3 Goku, let alone further than that, they're taking so much damage from normal attacks without items active that they're just such a huge liability, and if they happen to take a super, even with an item active, you lose so much health that it just makes it incredibly difficult. So I mentioned on Twitter yesterday, after I had finished this run, that this took me so many attempts, because the thing you have to realize, I have sped up the video here. That's the thing I did mention as well on Twitter that I was going to do, because this run overall took me just over half an hour. Now bear in mind the fact that because this team runs a little bit slower, because we have to use units that stack defense that maybe aren't the hardest hitting units, I was getting to the last phase, or like the second to last phase, and then dying, and that run would take me like 20 to 25 minutes. So obviously you think once you've done that like 4 or 5 times, you've already been sat trying to do it for like 2 hours. So I think yesterday before I went to work, I attempted multiple different team builds, and I probably spent a good like 3 to 4 hours trying to beat this with an Android team. So I tried out a whole bunch of different units, and then obviously this was the build that I settled on. So for one of our main rotations here, we are running the STR Super Mirror and then the Physical Mirror. They obviously share a ton of really good links together, and the STR Mirror infinitely stacks defense, Physical Mirror stacks attack and defense before transforming, and then transforms once we drop below 60% HP and becomes a much more damage dealing unit. He has built-in additionals and he infinitely stacks attack, but he doesn't stack defense anymore. So obviously, ideally, you want him to transform as late into the event as possible, so that his defense will be as high as possible. And unfortunately, one of the things that you'll notice with this event, and I talked about it when we did the power absorption run, is because you can take a super attack even early on that does a ton of damage to you, you can get very unlucky and have these units transform. Like here, Mira is going to transform pretty early on, but fortunately, because we are running him alongside the STR Mirror, STR Mirror is going to be our main tank for at least most of the phases. You can see here, I actually put him in slot 1, because one of the things where I'd failed a couple of the runs quite early on was when we get to this AGL phase, if the STR Android 17 or the STR Mirror take a super attack from this Goku, because he lowers defense, it doesn't matter that they've already super attacked a few times, but they just get absolutely destroyed. Like even the Physical Mirror here, with all the links that he has, he took 150k damage from the super attack. So on the STR one, even though he stacks defense, because of the combination of defense lowering and the type advantage, he just gets absolutely destroyed by him. So I had to take a bit of a risk here, because I don't like to use an item too early on, but this is where Android 18 comes in clutch, and she does this a few times throughout the run. So we're running the EZA, Int 18 and STR 17 together, as long as you have the opposite version on rotation, so 17 needs an 18 and 18 needs a 17. 17 gets built-in additional chance, so if you get the good RNG with his passive and his hidden potential system, he can super attack 3 times in one turn, and he infinitely stacks defense, and he stacks defense very quickly. So by the time we get to like the Super Saiyan 4 Goku phases, he's already over like 500,000 defense, so he is by far the best tank on the team. And then the Int 18, she infinitely stacks attack, so her defense is obviously nowhere near as good, but both of them do get a decent amount of bonus attack and defense as long as they have their partner on rotation. But she gets, if there's a 17 around, a built-in chance to dodge, and that definitely comes in clutch a couple of times during this run. And what's so good about her being an int unit is when we get to the final stage against the full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku, obviously she no longer has that ability to dodge, but she then has type advantage. So she's not the best tank in the world still at that stage, but she takes a lot less damage considering she has that type advantage bonus. So you can see here we are on pretty low HP. Both the 17 and 18 do change orbs, and we are getting the Dokkan attack here. Now, 17 is not the ideal one to get it with because he only stacks defense, so his attack never really gets any higher than, like, it's usually around 1.5, close to 1.6. It never really gets much higher because we don't have any support units. So he's not the ideal one to get the Dokkan attack, but on this particular turn, if we get it with 18 and she doesn't crit, then she's not really going to do any damage. And so we might as well go for the type of... You can see there, no crit, no damage really, unfortunately. So 40k from a normal attack. So there you go. There's one of her built-in dodges. Basically saves the run, because if she hadn't dodged that super attack, that absolutely would have been instant death. And then we're able to move on to the next turn. Obviously, we didn't do crazy damage with the Dokkan attack, but we still got a fairly reasonable heal. And that is the great thing about these units like the STR Mirror and the STR-17. As they stack up their defense more and more and their defense gets higher and higher, the more HP they give us back with same type orbs. So you can see here we get a nice little bit of a heal from the combination of the two mirrors, and we just pick up same type orbs with everybody, because at this point we've just used the Dokkan attack, so there's no reason to hold off on same type orbs. We might as well try and get as much HP back as we can and start building towards an eventual second Dokkan attack. So you can see the physical mirror here getting his additional. He has a chance to additional in his passive and has the hidden potential just like the STR-17. So on his best turn he can super attack 3 times, and as I said, once transformed he infinitely stacks attack. So he actually starts hitting pretty damn hard later on into the event. So the only other unit I guess we haven't really mentioned is the base form Android 13. So he is a free-to-play unit from the barbershop, but in an event where you can get his full passive active, he is really, really good. So as long as there's a Goku, I think, and Vegeta or Trunks, but obviously Goku's the only important one, enemy, he gets a bunch of extra attack and defense. He also has the mechanic that as long as you have 8 or more ki, he has 40% damage reduction, and he infinitely stacks attack and defense on super attack. So you can see there, he did take a little bit of damage from the Ozaru, but by the time we get to like even full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku, he's able to tank for double digits because he has that defense and damage reduction active. So I use my first item here. I don't like to use items until I at least get to the Ozaru phase, just because I know the later stages are going to be so difficult. But if Mira takes a super attack, the physical one from the Ozaru, which is exactly what happens, 240k with a Whis active. So if we hadn't used an item, that would absolutely be GG. The number of runs I did on this where we would get to this phase, and just like that previous turn, the physical mirror was only being attacked once. So I rolled the dice on him not getting super attacked, and then of course he was the one that took the super attack. And even on full HP, the damage that he takes from that Ozaru super is just basically guaranteed death. So yeah, very annoying. But we still have the Whis active here, which means no one on this rotation is going to take any damage. 18 tanks fairly well at this point if she doesn't dodge. So of course with the Whis active she's perfectly fine. And then 17 in the final slot. I believe the friend one is 79%. And obviously, as you guys know, mine is only 55%. So you might be thinking to yourself, hey, I thought this was supposed to be a Super 17 on the legendary GT Goku event. Like, why are both of them in slot 3? And yeah, I mean, it did start off supposed to be that. But I kind of took on this challenge after trying it a couple of times. I was like, damn, this is actually a really difficult challenge, but I really want to do it. Just to see if it can be done. And unfortunately, the best build for doing this is obviously having these stackers, having them with their best link partners. So it just works best to have the 17 floating off rotation. So he's still able to do very well. I mean, that's the thing. By running him on this team setup, like he's got some decent links here with the STR-17, but we're not bringing his best Link partner, which is the AGL Android 13, just because he becomes a huge liability in the final stage against Full Power Goku. A couple of these runs that I tried previously where I did bring him on the team, I failed because even with a Whis active, he was getting killed by a super attack from Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Not from full HP, but I think he was taking like, still taking like 250 to 300k, so obviously even with a Whis active, if you're not on full health, I actually managed to get killed a couple of times thanks to 13. He's really good in the early turns because he gives support and is still a fairly decent like defensive unit himself. And then as you get further through, like especially against the Ozaru, because he still counts as a Goku card, so he's getting his guaranteed crits and he has type advantage. Like he can be useful at certain stages of the event, but by the time you get to Full Power Goku, you're basically in a situation where if you don't have an item up, even with normal attacks, like he's probably just going to get you killed. And because of how careful we have to be with items on this run, he just seemed like too much of a liability. So I did manage to find the 2 dupes Super 17 friend, so we brought him along. Plus I thought it was better for like the theme of the challenge, so even though this isn't so much a Super 17 showcase anymore, it is the Super 17 Android team, because we're running double Super 17 leads. So that's another thing to bear in mind, of course, that the team is only being run under double 150 leader skills, so the attack stats and the defense are slightly lower than if we were actually running like the proper Android 13 version of the Android team, because then everyone would have 170% to both of those stats. It's just the fact that, like I said, the actual Android 13 himself is too much of a liability on the team for this event. I mean, you could probably get it done, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think I used 13 in the power absorption run, and I've seen other people use him in power absorption as well. You just have to make sure that you are protecting him in that final fight by basically having an item up whenever he gets attacked, because normal attacks do crazy damage to him anyway, and then of course if he takes a super, then, you know, it's just GG. But this phase, the Int Super Saiyan 4 Goku phase, this is where Mira is going to shine. So I was doing a bit of a defense check here. I'm really worried that he's going to super attack Super 17 in the final slot, because it's my Super 17, so even with his damage reduction active, he would take a lot of damage from that super. So I decided to use a Princess Snake. That tops up our HP a little bit and obviously gives us the damage reduction. So that means we're going to be hopefully safe from the incoming attacks. And then, yeah, unfortunately no additionals from Mira, but nearly 3 million damage on a crit. Very, very good for him. And then unfortunately no crit from Super 17. And boom, there you go. My super attack senses paid off. We used the Princess Snake, still took over 200k damage. So again, that was another situation where if we didn't have the item active, that would have been the run over. Fortunately, we can grab a bunch of STR orbs with 17 and some int orbs with 18. So getting the Dokkan attack with 17 is not ideal in the slightest. Like on this rotation, ideally we would want to get it with 18 because she's the actual damage dealer out of the two. But as you can see, all of the attacks are in slot 1, so it just wouldn't make any sense to have 18 in slot 1 instead of 17, because even though she has a chance to dodge, like his defense is so high at this point that he's just not going to take damage outside of maybe a super attack, but even then it's not going to be like an insane amount of damage, whereas 18 we are completely rolling the dice on her dodging. So unfortunately it means kind of a wasted Dokkan attack. It doesn't really do a huge amount of damage. I'm not sure what our HP is going to be looking like at the start of the next turn, but the friend Super 17 did come through with the crit, able to bypass that type advantage and or type disadvantage and actually do a fairly decent amount of damage, and we topped up our HP to a fairly reasonable amount. So I think Physical Mirror comes through with the big damage on this turn. So STR Mirror, even with how high his defense is, look at this, no item active, he still takes just over 100k damage. But Physical Mirror, over 3 million attack stat at this point, thanks to his stacking. So he gets the additional from his passive, 3.2, and then boom, the additional from the hidden potential, 3.4. So Physical Mirror, absolutely MVP for this Int Super Saiyan 4 Goku stage, and then we can finally move on to the last stage. So I think I mentioned it already, but it was one of the things I did say on Twitter. I have put the speed up. It's at 1.5 times speed because, like I did say, I'm pretty sure I said this at the beginning, the run took just over half an hour, and I really didn't want the video to be that long, so I sped up the footage a little bit. because I feel like a sort of 15 to 20 minute video is much more digestible than one that by the time I add all the commentary and the outro and stuff would be 32, 33 minutes long. So, but yeah, we used the Princess Snake here. This is just going to guarantee that we are fine for the turn, and of course as soon as 17 took the super attack there, I knew that we were going to be all good, because he probably would have tanked it even without an item active, but it just means everyone else on the rotation is going to be fine. With the fact that his passive has built up probably to full now, Super 17 is getting a bunch of extra ki, so we get the full 24 ki super with him. He's hitting over a 4 million attack stat there, which when you think about the fact that he's 55% under his own 150 leads, and the int Android 18 that he was next to there is far from his best link partner. So I would say he puts up a fairly decent performance in this run. I just think if you're going to take him into the GT Legendary Goku event and you want to run him like as a main rotation unit, I think you definitely need to have a couple of dupes and maybe be under a 170 lead. Obviously, if you've, I mean, not many people probably do have him rainbowed already if you're not a big old whale like our boy Goresh, but I mean, Rainbow going into this event, I'm sure he'd be very effective as a main rotation unit, but yeah, at 55%, you have to be careful with him, and that's why the strategy essentially ended up being keeping him off rotation. So I have been saving the active skills as well. I didn't want to use them against the int Super Saiyan 4 Goku, because obviously if you don't get a crit, then we wouldn't really do a lot of damage, so it would be a massive waste essentially. But yeah, I mean, you can see here, Android 18, thanks to the type advantage, even though she can't dodge, doesn't really take much damage from the normal attacks from Goku. And at this point, I don't know if we've checked the defense. I just brought it up on screen, but obviously with the speed of the footage, it's a little bit harder to see because I didn't keep it up on the screen very long when I was actually checking it during the recording. But 17 is, I think, at close to 700k defense at this point. So of course, like, he just can't be touched by anything. Like, even taking a super attack, I mean, you see here, yeah, he takes 119 damage from a super. So 13 gets dodged, but I mean, he doesn't really do a lot of damage anyway. He's mainly there to just be another good defensive unit, because I mean, the fact that he's a free-to-play unit and he's taking double-digit damage from full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku, it just shows you how effective the stacking units are. And then I go ahead and use a Whis here, because again, whilst this is going super well, I am very much aware that if like the physical mirror in the middle, or maybe even my Super 17 at the end, take a super attack, we could definitely be in danger of dying, especially because the Super 17 at the end is taking a follow-up attack. And so, you know, we could take a huge amount of damage from the super and barely survive, and then we're getting hit again. But Mira coming through with the additional super. He's hitting over 4 million attack stat now, so I think he's very underrated. Like, his design is a little bit wonky because I think his transformation condition is a bit weird, but I do actually really like that unit. I always liked the design of like the final boss Mira from Xenoverse 2. He has that sort of Super Saiyan 4-esque design. I think he looks really cool. But we're going to go ahead and bust out the first active skill, the Fabulous Hair Flip from our boy Super 17. And then Electro Eclipse Bomb, or Shocking Death Ball, depending on which version of the games and stuff you like. I guess that's technically the official name for it now, but I don't even know. But yeah, we do some fairly decent damage with that. Nothing too crazy. And yeah, 17 just tanks the super attack like it was nothing. And we're getting very, very close to taking him out. But that was the main thing, as I alluded to at the beginning, with units that stack defense only, like the STR Super Mirror and the STR 17, it just makes the overall run take a lot longer, and it becomes a bit more risky because our defensive stackers are pretty much untouchable, but it only takes like the wrong unit on the turn to take a super attack right near the end of the event, and you could be in trouble. Like here, in the final turns, as we're getting towards the very end, I would still have to be slightly concerned about the physical mirror taking a super attack, because the STR mirror, I mean, look at that, he still took 270k from a super attack from Goku, and his defense is way up around like 350, 400k at this point, thanks to his stacking. So obviously, if like physical mirror had taken that super attack, we potentially would have died this turn, or at least been super close, because I think everyone else on the rotation probably would just take double digits from normals anyway. But that would put us in a very dangerous position because, yeah, we're out of items at this point. So grabbing the same type orbs obviously gives us a very nice heal, and then we go for the active skill. I was really hoping to finish him off with one of the active skills so we could see the super cool KO screen, but I realised at this point that we were getting so close to killing him that there was no way I'd be able to put it off any longer. And unfortunately, my one being 55%, no crit, still did 1,000,000 damage, which is nice. And then you can see here, int 18, even without an item active, she takes 150k. So obviously 17, the defensive powerhouse out of those two. But I had to put her in slot 1 just to take advantage of all the same type orbs. And then just for the sort of poetic justice to end the run, 17 doesn't get any additionals. So Goku's at a perfect amount of HP for our boy to come in. 55% LR Super 17. He pops that free level 5 crit and takes out full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku. So there you go. That is the Super 17 Androids team beating the GT Legendary Goku event. This was an absolute nightmare. I'm glad I finally managed to do it though. So I would appreciate you guys if you show me some appreciation for this challenge that I have put forward for you. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.